Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, for taking the time to listen to me, and for caring about this specific subject. I have this research filter that frequently sends me updates when something with the keyword of Amazon is published. And while I often get alerts for news about one of the biggest retailers of the world, which was my intention, these emails mostly give me a devastating reality check on the state of the Amazon rainforest. And while I wish I was here to talk to you about how the Earth's lung is yet again fighting against wildfires, droughts, and the loss of its globally pivotal biodiversity, this seems so much more important than what I'm going to talk to you about today. I do want to draw your attention to one of the biggest tech companies, the other Amazon, slowly taking over public infrastructures and why we should care. First, I will give you an overview over the ubiquitous impact Amazon already has on cities and spaces, especially in its two biggest markets, Germany and the US. Thank you. I'll demonstrate how, without anybody really seemingly to notice, Amazon has settled on already existing public infrastructures, turning them into profitable private-public partnerships that build on their own capitalist interests. This leads to entire cities and regions depending on Amazon services, making the company not only governmentally powerful, but a crucial influencer on how our collective futures are designed without ever being democratically elected. To refuse these enclosed and privatized mechanisms, however, especially workers find ways to boycott the company, urging us to learn from their strategies and critically question who runs what should be public goods. Do stay informed about the Amazon rainforest, though, please. Today, Amazon is way more than just a virtual warehouse sitting on a mythic cloud provided by themselves. And the clicker is not working. I'm sorry. Yep, there you go. This everything store, as Brad Stone calls it, in its 30 years of existence, has extended its powers from retail to running hugely profitable cloud computing services and server capacities with its subsidiary Amazon Web Services, short AWS. It is also involved in food trade, in publishing, in film production, you probably know Prime Video, in streaming services, security, healthcare, and is now, currently, sending phallic-shaped space rockets to what Jeff Bezos calls colonizing outer space, generously sponsored by the NASA, meaning the public money of the US federal government. As of May 2024, Amazon has a net worth of $1.88 trillion. 30% of the world's internet is based on its Amazon Web Services. And in 2019, 68% of US Americans were Prime members. In its second biggest market, as I said, in Germany, in 2019 as well, 63% of the population were Prime members. 5 years later, this number has probably only grown. And while you might laugh about Amazon's famous leadership principle, about obsessing over its customers, which is literally a slogan they put everywhere in their warehouses, including the bathrooms of the staff, the fact that its original and still existing URL, relentless.com, says a lot about how the company is operating. These days, you can even buy a house on Amazon. Let's do this again.
Card. I don't need it.
Hold on. There we go.
Literally, after today, y'all can take my card. I don't need it. I'm 23 years old. I just bought a house off Amazon. Take the card. Take the fucking card away. I bought a fucking house on Amazon.
And speaking about this convenience as a service, as media scholar Emily West conceptualizes the company's strategy, Amazon has not only perfected its delivery, especially in urban areas, you probably know it, the delivery overnight, or even the same-day delivery. In rural Canada, for example, its delivery system is more reliable than the National Post. And furthermore, in 2022, AWS has been announced to be one of the US Department of Defense's cloud contractors. That means it is now running the US military cloud services. And just a few weeks ago, here in Rheinberg in Germany, it was announced that Amazon has opened its first European disaster relief hub, storing first aid goods in its warehouses, fulfilling public infrastructural needs as a private company. I'm an urban scholar by training, and never ever would I have thought that I'd become an expert on a company like Amazon. But here I am, 2.5 years into my research at the Leuphana University in Lüneburg, with the project Automating the Logistical City, which I do together with my colleagues Armin Beverum and Ilya Antenucci. And we've been looking into how one of the biggest tech companies in the world, Amazon, is influencing especially urban life, from shaping spaces to be the perfectly automated logistical city, that means the perfect last mile for their delivery services, to building curated publics that extract personal data to feed and predict sales. We've been doing so by making field observations, which usually entails that we go to their delivery stations and stand outside the fence trying to get a glimpse at their operations, which is semi-successful, I might say. We've been participating in conferences like this one and also by Amazon, part of the events, and we've been studying hours and hours of advertisements and press releases. We conducted qualitative interviews with German municipalities, journalists, activist initiatives, lobbying against gentrification processes. We've just heard about the Amazon Tower, and occasionally even with Amazon executives if they let us. Without their openness and their willingness to share their knowledge, and without the amazing support of our colleagues, student assistants, our fellow Ulf Träger, intellectual allies, and my personal support system, which is also here today, thank you, I would not be here today. And in the spirit of care, I would like to say that it takes a village to do research, and our project is standing on a lot of shoulders we owe our thanks to. Our insights are hugely influenced by the works of Emily West, Shannon Mattern, Lauren Bridges, Theo Armist, Charmaine Chua, Max Haven, Alex Monoya et al., and so many others. So I'd like to thank them all today and here from the bottom of my heart, and especially the interview partners that we had. Thank you. What we have seen in our research is that while the academic and critical discourse on smart cities has grown and become louder in the past few years, there's a lot of talk about Google and Cisco, and most recently even about Tesla, but focusing on the giant that is Amazon in so many industries is still pretty niche. Amazon has done a great job staying the warehouse in everyone's minds. And yet, tech companies like Amazon have quietly but surely become our neighbors, especially in cities, influencing far more than just retail, but urban design, infrastructures, and even futures, as I will show later on. By conveniently taking over logistical operations and the provisions of essential goods, as well as administrative cloud services, Amazon is gaining governmental power and is now often perceived as indispensable, a standard. But imagine, what does it do to the multiplicity of the city, to the heterogeneity and the density that is so exciting about urban spaces, when Amazon's finely attuned infrastructures in combination with various surveillance systems, we know them as Amazon Alexa, we know them as the vacuumous Roomba, and also as the doorbell Ring, when they connect the privacy of our home and habits to the code and concrete of the city. Yes, as the commercials praise, your everyday life would be a convenient network of smooth operations. In this Amazon town, Alexa wakes you up with your favorite song, and the Amazon Halo tells you about your breathing and sleeping patterns of last night. And while you go through your Alexa morning routine, your favorite coffee and also your Uber ride is already ordered to your door. And on your way to work, you're passing delivery vans as well as delivery robots even. Once you're at work and at your desk, you log into the various AWS interfaces and services. And on your way back home later in the day, you, of course, grab your package at one of the Amazon lockers. You do some last-minute grocery shopping that the app reminded you of because your fridge is empty. And your Amazon tiny house, maybe, awaits you very well heated with the playlist that matches tonight's mood and some recommendations on what to watch on Prime Video tonight. But who is this Amazon city for? As Amazon is taking over more and more of our everyday lives from our homes, like these smart personal gadget and home management tools, over the streets, like in the delivery sector, to infrastructures and the internet, it is important to point to the privatization of public goods driven by tech companies. It seems like the more environments they are able to curate and consequently control or even own, the more personal and public data they are able to extract and feed back into their sales predictions. As these are the basis of future predictions, productions Amazon eventually will profit from. And by offering apparently endlessly convenient tech solutions to any sector, people, as much as public infrastructures or administrations, turn to their services. And while these seem to make cities smarter, administrative tasks more efficient, and infrastructures improve, who gets to decide upon the workings of this system, who programs them, and who is represented within them, who knows about their politics, becomes not only privatized, but black-boxed and enclosed. We don't know what's happening with these anymore. Take, for example, Arlington in Northern Virginia, the USA, where Amazon has opened up its second headquarters a year ago in 2023. By advertising to, quote, build the future, Amazon has settled onto already existing infrastructures. They are pushing for local public transit projects that primarily Amazon itself is profiting off, and they're connecting the company to Washington, D.C. across the river. And they do so by opening a new metro station and initiating a pedestrian bridge that is literally going to the capital of the United States. More so, Amazon has made itself infrastructural in Arlington by consciously curating controlled publics. It has, and this is no joke, rebranded and renamed an entire neighborhood, and it runs the public metropolitan park in front of its office. By helping to bring part of the Virginia Tech University to town, they built a community catering to Amazon's ideal of a city, which is white-collar, homogeneous, in which the company is key to building private-public partnerships, as well as providing jobs and giving spaces to what they assume are good neighbors. Normalizing its presence in public spaces, sponsoring neighborhood events, and even being actively involved in local political committees makes Amazon not only part of the community, but accepted and respected. Thus, it is invisibly, and I say that again, not democratically elected, creating a codependency of the city to the company the local government surely doesn't seem to have an exit strategy from, but rather embraces. Arlington has become a modern company town, a landmark of techno-capitalist and geopolitical power. Urban activists in Berlin fear this could happen here as well, and shout out to Berlin versus Amazon. Amazon in Berlin is building its second German headquarters, which will be opened in Friedrichshain at the end of this year. Meanwhile, in close neighborhood, Brandenburg's development of future industries is dictated by the needs of big tech companies. You might have heard that Tesla opened its first gigafactory there, and now Amazon is planning a so-called AWS region with server capacity that will power a European sovereign cloud in cooperation with the German Federal Office of Information Security. This will, again, be another public service that will be built on private and enclosed code. And while our personal data is stored on private cloud infrastructure, built off of public information, and maybe even subsidized or on public land, its servers will need an, as of now, unpredictable amount of water in a region rattled by wildfires in the last years. But there's hope. Glitches of all kinds allow workers, activists, artists, and researchers to hack and thus participate in, care for, and eventually break with Amazon's otherwise opaque infrastructures, offering a chance to reflect on their protocols, their standards, and politics inscribed into the mechanisms underlying our societies. Reoccurring and fatal glitches, failures, and little breakdowns of the system have fueled collective action and organization even. Events like the preventable deaths of warehouse workers during a tornado in the US in November 2021 made the company's carelessness towards its workers, who they did not alert on time to leave the collapsing warehouse, painfully public. Additionally, implemented union-busting practices, such as word bans on Amazon's workers' chat app, and unbearable physical pressure triggered outrages on social media, increasingly damaging Amazon's image. A growing body of critical news coverage and, finally, attempts to politically regulate Amazon have led to a public expression of fighting against tech monopolies. But the biggest resistance comes from within. It is led by those on whose backs Amazon is building its future and fame. For years, workers have been gathering in break rooms, in WhatsApp groups, and on public bus stops to get organized, to empower each other, and to unionize for change. Other tactics are workers intentionally slowing down during power hour, which is a very physically intense hour that needs to higher production. And they've developed coping strategies to save energy for the rest of their days. And furthermore, collective action in the form of Bummelstreiks, go-slow strikes, try to temporarily analyze the supply chain to bring attention to the inhumane work requirements. Workers thereby stress their influence on the workings of this global infrastructure without having to fear legal prosecution or even losing their job, which has happened. Be it by having a bunch of family helping to deliver smiling boxes, founding a reading group around Marx the Capital to empower social and even legal action, or leaking the community's next moves with activists, or the companies, I'm sorry, that's important, leaking the company's next moves with activist friends. Hiccups in the system and unpredictable events or loopholes, these glitches that I've been talking about, and most of all, the sharing of knowledge of otherwise black boxed mechanisms allowed to question Amazon's infrastructure and intentions for the sake of all of us. As we sadly witness at the moment, uncertainties, either tech-induced or as a sign of the times, they're powerful and already infrastructural tools to not only fleetingly impact societal norms, but control and privatize public negotiations of all of our futures. This is expressed in solutions offered by tech companies that seem to want to sell us a future that is smoothly operated by their software and techno-capitalist Silicon Valley ethos. In reality, though, these visions are building on deeply historically rooted, racialized and gendered forms of workers' oppression, and on trying to, mostly algorithmically, but also otherwise, foreclose and profit off of what is to come, or on sticking to problematic, eugenetic long-termism visions of the future. In light of public infrastructure being more and often invisibly influenced by capitalist, in light of public infrastructure being more and often invisibly influenced by capitalist tech companies such as Amazon, we need to consciously interrogate their authorship, their standards, their accessibility, and their influence on us and our everyday urban lives. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I myself, I don't want to live in a world that is leaning on Star Trek metaphors as is Jeff Bezos. I don't want to live in a world run by a hand of tech bros that have the monopoly on even our public goods, like the health services. For the future to be just and more hopeful and more caring, we need to be able to participate in the building of code and also concrete. We need to think of futures in the plural, as constantly and commonly negotiated, diverse ideas on how we want to live together in cities and elsewhere. So I agree with what many of the workers, activists, and people living in the glitches say: the wrong Amazon is burning. You'll find my references of the talk behind the QR code, as well as more information, and I'm happy to answer some of your questions, either in English or in German. Both works for me. And I thank you so much for your attention.